Hello, you're listening to E-Bible Fellowship's new open forum excerpts, and now we present the following excerpt.
Welcome to our question and answer program. Please go ahead with your call.
Hi, Chris. Can you go to Isaiah 2, verse 10 to 12?
Isaiah 2, and starting in verse 10, enter into the rock and hide thee in the dust for fear of Jehovah and for the glory of his majesty. The lofty looks of man shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men shall be bowed down, and Jehovah alone shall be exalted in that day. For the day of Jehovah of hosts shall be upon everyone that is proud and lofty, and upon everyone that is lifted up, and he shall be brought low.
I know this sounds like it's talking about picturing our time of Judgment Day. What confuses me is the word humble. I know that in Isaiah 57, verse 15, it's describing the humble, contrite heart of Christ. So I would think that someone being humble is a good thing. Like you would see good things, but you don't see that today. You see the opposite.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. To be humble, it means to come low, to be brought low. For example, in Luke 14, in verse 7, and he put forth a parable to those which were bidden, when he marked how they chose out the chief rooms, saying unto them, when thou art bidden of any man to a wedding, sit not down in the highest room, lest the more honorable man than thou be bidden of him. And he that bade thee and him come and say to thee, give this man place, and thou begin with shame to take the lowest room. Now, the word lowest here is 51:17 in the concordance. And verse 10, but when thou art bidden, go and sit down in the lowest room, that when he that bade thee cometh, he may say unto thee, friend, go up higher. Then shalt thou have worship in the presence of them that sit at meat with thee. For whosoever exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted. You see that last verse? He that humbleth himself is the one in the lowest room, and upon Christ's coming, because this is referring to the marriage supper, the wedding feast. And when he comes, the conditions of people are reversed. Those who have lifted themselves up or exalted themselves are brought low in the day of judgment, or humbled, and those who have humbled themselves are lifted up, go up to the higher place. That's the exaltation. And, we're in the day of judgment. And to a degree, this has happened with God's people, but not completely. Actually, what Isaiah 2 is describing is the wrath of God coming and bringing everyone low. Once God came on May 21, 2011, shut the door, he turned the nations into hell. Hell is the grave. The grave is a low place. It's a humble place in the sense that it's low. It's an abased place. You come down. And so all the proud, all the arrogant, whether in the church, out of the church, the pride and arrogance of sinful men. Now, in the church, they lifted themselves up to lofty heights, as it says in Obadiah right before Jonah. It speaks of those who have lifted themselves up in verse 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith Jehovah. So God began with the churches, started his judgment there, and on May 21, 2011, completed the separation of wheat and tares, bundled all the tares for burning, and immediately, as soon as we entered into judgment, they're all brought down. They were all humbled or abased. And on the other hand, God saved this great multitude, and they're left on the earth, and they receive a new, or they received already prior to May 21, a new resurrected soul. And so in heart, they have a heart after God's own heart, like the Lord said of David, a man after mine own heart. Well, that's not just true of David. It was true of David because he received the new spiritual heart in salvation that comes from Christ, is patterned after Christ, and a broken, contrite heart, as Jesus had a broken, contrite heart, a humble heart. And so all the elect have humble hearts. And we enter into the day of judgment. The world's brought low in the wrath of God, the day of judgment. We are in a low condition as well. And for numbers of God's elect, see, because they have already been saved, that pride has been removed from their soul, from their new heart. They are of the nature where, unlike the professed Christian in the church, who will quickly accept Christ or quickly, believe the pastor, oh, yes, you give every indication of being saved, or because they were baptized, or, 1,000 different reasons they think they're saved. And in saying they're a Christian, they have, as Obadiah says, exalted themselves into the heavens, but it's not true. It's not true salvation. They weren't really saved. And so in this time, God brings them down. But for the true child of God, we don't want to tell ourselves, we don't want to say, now look, you have this desire to do the will of God. You have turned from this sin or that sin. Yes, I see some evidence. But, we run into people all the time. Here we are years into Judgment Day, and they still lack assurance, and they don't want to assure themselves, and they're waiting on the Lord. They're waiting on the Lord. So there is this humble positioning for the child of God. I will wait for God to say unto my soul, I am thy salvation. That's one way. And of course, the other way is for all God's people, we are in a low place by being in the world that is under the wrath of God, that has been turned into hell. We're in the grave. And again, you can't get any lower than that. But we are looking towards God, trusting him, waiting on him, waiting for the last day, which is a day of exaltation. So literally on the last day of Earth's existence, it's the day of resurrection and the rapture of all the living saints, and all are exalted. They're lifted up and transported into the heavenlies. But the people of the world, they've been brought down. They're going to stay down. And if we go back to Isaiah 2, in verse 11 that we read, the lofty looks of man shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men, and to be haughty, a proud and haughty scorner is his name. It's someone who thinks an awful lot of themselves. The haughtiness of men shall be bowed down, and Jehovah alone shall be exalted in that day. For the day of Jehovah of hosts shall be upon everyone that is proud and lofty, and upon everyone that is lifted up, and he shall be brought low. And this would also go for all the people of the world. A lot of pride out there, a lot of sinful arrogance, especially against God. Just so many who speak badly of him and speak badly of his word, the Bible. And here they are in this low condition, and the world's being troubled. And part of that troubling, part of this constant troubling, this, if it's not one thing or another, day after day after day, viruses or economic trouble or political upheaval or societal turmoil or actual warfare and the threat of war growing and expanding, and just all kinds of havoc is taking place on the earth, and Christ is behind it all. He is the one that is troubling the inhabitants of the world. This is the day of punishment, the day of the wrath of God. And so you can almost see it when there was we just went through a brief period where people are thinking, okay, now we have leadership we want. Things are going to be great. Things are going to be wonderful. Once again, there's going to be a return of glory. Very short-lived. Very short-lived. Again, no, this isn't the time for mankind's exaltation in any way. They are being brought down. The world's institutions, all of the various institutions, they might momentarily want to exalt in some kind of success, and next thing you know, they're back on the front pages, humiliated and shamed. No success there for your institution. The wrath of God is upon you, and all the institutions of the world make up the world, and the world is the object of God's wrath, a target. So Isaiah 2 really gets into that emphasis. It goes on for several verses. Brought down.
Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. That way you don't miss any upcoming videos.